Hello and welcome to Filling the Sink. I'm Lorcan Doherty and today we're talking about learning Catalan. Should we learn Catalan? What's it like learning Catalan? How do you go about doing it? Those are the sorts of things that we're going to be chatting about today. It's a topic I find personally very interesting. I'm looking forward to today's podcast. Coming up later, we'll be hearing from a Catalan teacher in Barcelona and one of her students from Argentina on their experiences, including one very unusual reason for learning Catalan. We'll drop in on a Speak Catalan session set up by two Catalans. They organise activities to help foreigners learn and speak Catalan in fun and relaxed social settings. Before all that, I'm delighted to be joined by two guests in studio this week. Jordi Ballart, a Catalan teacher. He works for the CPNL, the Consorci para Normalització Lingüística. In English, you might say Consortium for Language Normalization. Hello, Jordi.
Hello, good morning, Lorcan.
And Grace Ferris, who is learning Catalan. Hola, Grace. Bon dia.
Bon dia.
¿Cómo estén? Gracias por venir a Filling the Sink, our podcast. Actually, I was going to ask first, Jordi, I guess the name of the podcast, Filling the Sink, is based on a Catalan phrase. I guess you know what it is, Filling the Sink.
I know. Yeah.
Grace, do you have any idea what it might be? I'm putting you on the spot now. No?
I have no idea.
Right. Well, Jordi, do you want to enlighten us?
It's the mica mica s'omple la pica.
Yeah, exactly, which is little by little, the sink fills up. So that's the idea of the podcast, that each month that we explore a little different bit of Catalonia and little by little, the sink fills up. So that's why it's filling the sink. So we're talking about Catalan, a Latin language. It's similar to Italian or Spanish. It has approximately 10 million speakers, including both native and second language speakers. Not just in Catalonia, of course. Catalan speakers in Andorra, Valencia, part of France as well, that historically was Catalan, La Franja, which is this area of Aragon, the Balearic Islands, so Mallorca, Menorca, and even the city of Alghero on the Italian island of Sardinia. Jordi, when people come to live, we're talking about Catalonia really, when people come to live in Catalonia, is learning Catalan important, would you say? Should it be?
Oh, definitely, yes. There's a number of reasons that students are telling us, that, like when we ask them, why are you studying Catalan? But I would highlight three main reasons. One of them is social mobility. A few students are telling us that they're coming here because they want to find a job. Catalan helps them to find jobs and increase the opportunities for social mobility and professional and personal promotion. So we have that. But in the second place, there's also another motivation, which is what I would call a sense of belonging, like feeling you are part of the community, feeling that you can actively participate in the community and join social groups and join associations, and feeling that you are there, you are integrated in that society, And in the third place, I would say the kids' education is important as well. A few students are telling us that they're learning Catalan because they want to help the kids with the homework at school.
I can relate to all three of those. It's interesting.
Well, yeah, really, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, they want to understand schools' communications, addressed to families and so on. They want to get involved in the children's education.
As someone who's not from here and come here, I think that I think Catalan is obviously very present in society, and you do hear it a lot. But if we look at the statistics, it is worth acknowledging that Catalan today is the first language of less than 1/3 of the Catalan population. The headline figure, 32.6%, if you want to get into details. And the thing about it is that it's fallen. Also, which I think is interesting, been looking at various statistics, but perhaps an important one is the social use of Catalan is also falling as well. So Catalan is the primary language used in social settings for 29% of the population. And just 2 decades ago, this was more than 40%. So that's a little bit worrying as well. What do you think the current situation of Catalan is today?
I think, well, to start on the positives, the knowledge of Catalan is pretty high. If you look at data from the latest EULP, the latest survey of Catalan users, the knowledge of Catalan in terms of oral comprehension and oral expression even is, well, the figures, the scores are pretty high. But then, as you said, the challenge is how do you translate that competence in Catalan, the knowledge of Catalan, into an everyday use of it? So that when you look at that, certainly the percentages have fallen significantly. Mm-hmm.
And okay, so you work for the CPNL, which puts on these classes, which are great, by the way. If you don't know them and you're thinking about learning Catalan, do check them out. I want to know who signs up for these classes in general. Is there a certain profile or different profiles of learners, and has that changed at all over time, would you say?
Yeah, but I mean, they've changed over time. At the very beginning, you had maybe more like Spanish speakers, native Spanish speakers, and who wanted to learn Catalan. Some of them were like newcomers, some others were like older people who didn't have access to the Catalan language because of Francoism. But then with years, the students' profile have changed. And nowadays, we have a huge diversity of origins and languages, which, well, they change from location to location. And in L'Hospitalet, for example, which is the office where I'm based, we have more students from Latin American origins, like Colombia or Peru or Ecuador. In some other places, you'll have more students from Northern African countries or from the Middle East. So I guess the students' profile keep changing according to the dynamics of demographic changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any classes I've been in, it's always fascinating on that first day to say, okay, where's everyone from? Yeah. It's a really nice experience as well. No, I think it's fair to say that some learners say that the hardest part isn't actually learning Catalan, it's finding the opportunities to use it. We've kind of hinted at it already. Would you say there's some truth in that?
I think yes, it's very true. And our students are telling us that sometimes, well, usually they find difficulties in finding areas where they can use Catalan and interact in Catalan outside the classroom, So, and it's a very relevant point, because I think sometimes we Catalan speakers, we tend to burden newcomers with the weight of you have the duty to speak Catalan or learn Catalan and so on. But we Catalan speakers, we have a duty as well, a responsibility to provide those safe areas so they can socially use the language. And we have a number of programs, like the Voluntariat per la Llengua, the linguistic couples, in which a volunteer who speaks Catalan regularly offers an hour a week of informal conversation to someone who wants to develop their communicative skills. They want to practice a conversation, oral conversation, and so on. So that's a way that in a natural space, if you want, in a non-academic environment, they use Catalan and they speak it, they can interact with someone who's a local.
Yeah, it's a great initiative because it's very different, the classroom experience, to then just
very much so, yeah.
Informally. Well, we're going to continue this conversation in just a minute. And Grace, I really want to hear about your experience learning Catalan. But first, my Catalan news colleague, Cillian Shields, has been speaking with Catalan teacher Mafalda Palà and her student, Alejandro Merayo.
Em dic Mafalda Palà i faig de tècnica de normalització lingüística al Consorci per a la Normalització Lingüística.
Em dic Alejandro, jo soc estudiant, aprenent de català al Consorci.
Mafalda and Alejandro are Catalan teacher and student, brought together by classes put on by the Consorci per la Normalització Lingüística, where Mafalda has been working for 4 years, a time period in which she's seen the organisation take huge strides forward.
Really, what they're doing now is very promising. They're offering incentives with new teachers, an increase in places in classes, because obviously there's a huge demand to learn the language, and now it seems that things are going quite well.
In her classes, Mafalda says she doesn't see just one specific profile of student, but rather a wide variety.
It is true that it also depends on the area where you're giving the classes. Perhaps the profile changes a bit depending on whether it's in more central area or more on the periphery.
The teacher even finds that more and more elderly Catalan people are taking the courses too.
Because Catalan was banned here for a period, there are many people who are lacking in their Catalan ability in parts. Generally, they are in the higher level classes, such as intermediate, because they have spoken Catalan, but then there isn't as many places that offer it at this level. But I have quite a few students who are from here who don't know how to write in the language.
It happens a lot. For example, my partner's grandmother, who speaks Catalan, she can only speak it, but can't write in Catalan.
But of those who have come from abroad, Mafalda is seeing more and more Argentine students in her classes.
Lately, like Alejandro, there are a lot of Argentinian students. Yes, I don't know if it's because they're especially interested in the language or what. I don't know why.
Well, there are so many Argentines in Barcelona, so it's proportional, right?
The teacher always asks her students their reasons for wanting to learn Catalan.
The most surprising reason I've come across is one student who told me that he was learning Catalan because his dog only understood Catalan. It was very funny because his brother-in-law was Catalan and spoke to the dog in Catalan. He said, I tell him to eat in Spanish and he doesn't understand. I tell him to eat in Catalan and he eats. In Catalan, he gives me his paw.
Student Alejandro, on the other hand, has more mainstream reasons for learning the language.
For me, it's to connect with people, with local people, native people here. To connect with my friends, my partner, and to get to know them, to integrate, to get to know the culture.
Alejandro moved to Barcelona 9 years ago to live a new life for himself and learned the basics of Catalan almost immediately after arriving, before taking a pause in his Catalan journey.
Yeah, after a couple of months, I was in the basics classes. But then, of course, I didn't practice and I quit. And now 2 years ago, I started again. I mean, when you arrive, maybe your friends are from your country, or it takes a while to make local friends or to get to know people from here.
In his case, Alejandro explains that he was able to make local friends, who then gave him extra motivation to learn their native language.
Those friendships started in Spanish, and then they start to say, hey, you have to speak Catalan. They encourage you. It's like they try to get you to speak a little and to motivate you, and they ask you, come on, I'd like you to speak Catalan.
He believes programs like those offered by the Consorci are very important.
I think there's a new awareness, right, especially from local people, to promote Catalan, not only with resources and from Spain, but also to create an awareness that it is important to defend and to use Catalan as much as possible, and to encourage foreigners to also learn Catalan, not only Spanish.
Alejandro and Mafalda explained that the classes come in various different formats, depending on the needs and preferences of each student.
There are many types of class. I like the in-person classes and usually do 2 classes a week of 2 hours each. There are also online classes, a combination, in-person, fully remote.
Most courses are in person, and then blended learning is also popular. But you can also find online virtual options, a virtual classroom doing exercises online.
However, Mafalda prefers the in-person experience.
Honestly, as a teacher, I see that learning changes a lot in the in-person classes as opposed to online or blended courses, especially for learners who can't speak the language very much already. In the basic and elementary classes, they learn much more face-to-face.
Alejandro concludes with the point that being able to speak another language will always mean a victory for culture.
For me, learning a language is like traveling. It's getting to know another world, connecting with more music, more people, more activities. It's a different way of seeing the world. And I love Catalan music, I love it, and you win it in so many ways. The culture here, the people, it's absolutely amazing.
Thanks to Cillian and to Mafalda and Alejandro. Absolutely love that story about the student learning to speak Catalan to communicate with their dog. Grace, I want to ask you, before moving to Catalonia, what did you know about Catalan?
It's a good question. Almost nothing. I knew it existed. I'd heard of it. I visited Barcelona when I was, I don't know, maybe a teenager. And maybe when you're that age, you come on holiday and you don't really think about the place that you're really visiting. It's very much a surface level kind of experience. I moved here like kind of spontaneously as well, so I didn't take much time to sort of prepare myself linguistically or anything. And then I arrived and I found it like a super quick learning curve. I think that maybe because I started through a university, so immediately I met quite a lot of native Catalan speakers. I guess I would have, prior to arriving, I probably would have said, not known how prominent it is that it's some people, people live here and almost exclusively speak Catalan. That would have really surprised me. And now, of course, that's super obvious. I've had the opportunity to get a bit more immersed. So yeah, I'd say I learned it's super different to what I expected.
Yeah. So how long have you been living in Catalonia?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. And did you speak, for example, any Spanish or anything before you came?
No.
No. So did you? So what did you decide to learn Spanish, Catalan, or both? What was the thinking there?
I first started with Spanish classes, maybe because I wasn't entirely aware about how important it was to learn Catalan for, day-to-day life, sense of belonging, as Jordi said.
Yeah, that was
all
a good
these
one.
things work potentially. And also I wasn't sure at that point whether I'd be staying more than maybe a year, the duration of my master's. And then at the point at which I knew that I wanted to stay, I said, okay, now's the time to start looking at Catalan.
Okay, can you remember now going into your first Catalan class what you were thinking? Did you have an end goal in mind, or were you just kind of go with the flow and see what happens?
Pretty go with the flow. I think I felt quite ambitious. I would quite like to speak it really well. It takes time. I went into my first class in the Consorci, I guess, pretty nervous because I didn't start from the basic course.
Okay.
I basically got to a certain point using the free apps, a couple of conversation sessions, and that was kind of enough for them to say, okay, why don't we put you in not entirely beginner class.
Yeah.
So I was a bit apprehensive about maybe the different levels that people will have, but the classes know that people will be coming from different linguistic backgrounds, from different levels of experience with Catalan. So I'd say they're pretty well adapted to accommodating people with different, and there were lots of other quite nervous people as well.
How have you found the classes then? Are they what you expected? Any surprises or anything?
I'd say compared to, I initially started just sort of studying myself. So I think it's better to be in a group of people. And it's super kind of friendly and easygoing, and you really have the opportunity to speak. The teachers encourage you to speak. You can pipe up if you want to, and also it's a very relaxed environment, having the opportunities to speak with other students and sort of getting corrected, offering maybe some corrections to other people.
So you also learn off the other students. That's a nice thing about going to the classes. I think it's not just the teacher. You can pick up, or because you might know the word for something and they might know the word for something else, and
exactly the common mistakes that people make depending on maybe the languages you already speak vary.
Yeah.
So I make different mistakes to the people who already speak Spanish or Italian, maybe.
Grace, can you remember when you started first having real conversations in Catalan? How that felt?
Yeah, I can remember because it wasn't that long ago. I'm still getting there. But yeah, I guess the first time I did interactions, it's very rewarding, I think, because people respond so well, because people who are native speakers have such an investment in foreigners coming and engaging with Catalan properly that they're really forgiving of, maybe if you make mistakes, but you're giving it a go. I find people are not super likely to switch back to English or to Spanish unless you really need it. But even people generally don't immediately come and speak to me in Spanish or Catalan because I look quite English. However, people will, so no one thinks that I'm a native speaker, but people will still allow me to try in Catalan.
I think that's been my experience as well, that, if you start a conversation in Catalan, and 9 times out of 10, you'll have a conversation in Catalan. And if you don't, it might be because the other person happens to not speak Catalan. Jordi, but there is a phenomenon though, isn't there? Or that's maybe a conscious effort on the part of people from here to keep speaking Catalan, isn't it? That's something that's talked about at a societal level, isn't it?
I would say in general, yes. Generally speaking, I think that's the case. But well, it's many different cases really. I think well, as Grace said, people are very grateful when you have a go at it and you try to speak the language here. But sometimes, well, some students have told us that they start a conversation in Catalan in a shop or even at a public service, and the shop assistant or the member of staff is a Catalan speaker, speaks Catalan to other customers, and then because they have an accent or because of the physical appearance, they switch to Spanish when they start trying to engage in a conversation in Catalan. Which is very off-putting and very frustrating, of course.
If you're trying to learn and you're trying to
try
practice.
to learn, you try to speak it, and then they switch languages. Yes, but in general, people are very willing and are really appreciative of the effort.
We're going to drop in now on a Speak Catalan session. Now, Speak Catalan was set up by two young Catalans, Eloy and Arnau. After returning to Barcelona from Erasmus, they realised that it was becoming harder to speak Catalan in everyday life and social settings. So they organise social activities where newcomers can come and practice the language in a relaxed setting.
Eloy and Arnau created a community for anyone who doesn't speak Catalan to learn and practice with others who have moved to Barcelona to live and work. Eloy explains that expats really do want to integrate. Sigurd is a Norwegian who attended a bingo night at Speak Catalan. I love the language, he says. I love the culture here. I was looking to do more and learn the language. August from Argentina says she wants to learn Catalan to be part of society here. Arnau is the other organizer of Speak Catalan and explains the initiative started because each of us lived abroad, Eloy in England and me in France. And we both found communities there where many activities were carried out. Many things were done, all based around a specific thing. But when I returned from France, I found it was increasingly difficult to speak Catalan. So we did it ourselves. We created a community based around speaking Catalan. Eloy adds that from the start, they saw the stigma often mentioned in the news or on social media that expats don't want to integrate, or the idea wouldn't work because they don't want to learn Catalan. But they've seen the total opposite. They've seen that there's a lot of interest. Arnau has seen the interest from people outside of Barcelona as well. They organized a calçotada. 2 people from Andorra came, people came from Berga, people came from Vic. Of course, to travel an hour and a half, 2 or 3 hours to get to Barcelona is a long journey. There's really a desire to learn the language, and it's a beautiful thing. It's exciting, Arnau says. Speak Catalan provides an important environment for August. I don't think there are that many opportunities to socialize in Catalan, she comments, because generally Catalans have their own group of friends. Arnau explains that maybe they have a roommate from other parts of the world, but in their day-to-day lives, they don't interact often with a Catalan person. Sigurd points out that Catalan is a very welcoming language to learn because every time you tell a Catalan you're learning the language, they say, "Oh wow, look, oh, that's cool." Every time it's a really nice feeling and gives more motivation to speak Catalan because people are always super grateful and really happy that you're learning it.
As we heard there, Catalonia is obviously with demographic changes becoming increasingly multilingual. Jordi, what role do newcomers play in the future of the Catalan language?
It's a very, very important role, yeah, because when you have newcomers using the language, and if they settle in Catalonia, and they have their kids using the language, learning the language and using it, and then the grandchildren are using the language as well, learning it and using it, you have this intergenerational transmission of the language, which is very important to keep a language in good health, you know. So, but again, and coming back to that point, that it's important that they find the social I would say social spaces, so they can use Catalan and in informal uses, you know, in outside the classroom, non-academic environments, and we should provide those. We should facilitate the access to the Catalan language to them.
And facilitated by just simply using Catalan, or
Yeah, by using Catalan, by daily interactions, by not switching languages when you see someone who understands Catalan and is even able to speak it. It's like more about giving access to the language rather than putting a barrier. And also creating those safe spaces so they can use Catalan in a relaxed way, as I said, in a non-academic environment.
What about how important then is online?
I mean, there is a lot of content online about Barcelona in English, but I think like the side of the place that you experience like living here, but also maybe what you see through your socials, like the places that someone might go to, other things they might talk about, are really very different when it's in Catalan or maybe by someone who is from here. So I think maybe by by following some people in Catalan, you can like really see a different side of the place. In the same way, I think speaking it offline, you can get to like another layer of like the culture and have a very different experience living here than if you're only speaking English or Spanish for years living here. So I think it's a really good opportunity, and definitely kind of on socials, hearing Catalan spoken in like a more natural and fluid way, maybe with subtitles, for me that's really useful to then improving like listening comprehension offline as well.
Slang terms as well and things like that, more informal language which you might not be exposed to in other settings as well. Would you be optimistic about the future of Catalan? Sometimes there's a little bit of doom and gloom maybe, as you know, if you look at statistics over the years and use fallen, but as you said right at the start, that the understanding of Catalan is actually at a very high level.
I have to be optimistic when I look at the figures of our students, increasing number of students we're having at the Consorci, increasing number of students who are completing a basic course and carrying on to elemental level, intermediate level, and so on and so on. So the following up courses. And as I said before, according to the latest data of the last survey, the comprehension, the levels of oral comprehension or oral expression, they're quite high. So when I look at that, I have to be optimistic. However, that's the challenge, how do you, when you look at the everyday use of the language, percentages drop. So we have, as I mentioned before, the program of linguistic couples. We have like language practices, where students go to shops and associations, and they interview the shop assistants and the association's members of staff. And they can actually have a conversation there in Catalan, and that's very interesting because this is really, this is the real thing. It's the real world,
They're not talking to a teacher.
Exactly, you're outside the safety bubble of the classroom. So I think that's the initiatives like that and programs like that are very important. Yeah, we also have like workshops, like linguistic sensibilization workshops aimed at school teachers and associations, members of staff, and with the aim of making them aware of the importance of using Catalan with the students and with the customers, because it's about giving them the chances, enhancing the chances for personal and professional promotion. It's about equal opportunities, and it's about empowerment at the end of the day. So I think we have that, but we need more of that. Enable, if before we're able to talk about success.
Another thing you mentioned near the top of the program was this feeling of belonging. And Grace, I wanted to ask you. Has learning Catalan changed how you feel about your connection to Catalonia, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think even being able to just speak a little bit, or equally just to show that you are committed to the place, maybe it demonstrates more of an interest in staying here, and that you're not feeling as much transience in the place and you'll be moving on in a year, as many people do in Barcelona. I think these really improve, or kind of you do notice a bit of a shift in the way that you interact with people and the way that you're received in public, and also kind of the ability to build stronger connections and maybe make friends. Certainly also, in my experience, it's a little bit of a myth that you don't need Catalan, maybe if we're talking about like working in Catalonia. And so I think having potentially like seeing a path forward to creating more job opportunities by being like proficient in Catalan as well is also like super helpful in creating more of a sense of permanence in the place.
If you had advice for someone who was considering Catalan classes, or advice for someone going along to their first classes, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say just go for it. Like the Consorci makes these classes like flexible. There are a lot of options. They are affordable. I think a lot of people have not heard of them, but they're there. So I'd say if you're waiting for the moment when you feel ready, it might not come. You have to create the moment. And I think you'll see the benefits like within a short time. And learning a language is fun.
Yeah, we can't forget that. Well, that's us for today. Thanks very much for listening and for watching. Thank you, Grace and Jordi, for joining us today. And to everyone else as well who chatted to us for this month's podcast. Remember, you can subscribe to Filling the Sink wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking a little bit of a summer break here on Filling the Sink, so our next episode will be out in September. Until then, from me, Lorcan Doherty, and all of us here at Catalan News, take care, bye for now, adeu, i bon estiu.